Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of SD Spooky Adventures. My name is Michelle, and I have my co-host Janine with us on today. Hi, Janine.
Hi, Michelle.
Janine, tell everyone about SD Spooky Adventures because really, this is your baby.
So, SC Spooky Adventures was my brainchild. I have been a medium my entire life, and that kind of led me into the paranormal. With SC Spooky Adventures, we kind of go into anything that's paranormal between ghosts, aliens, cryptids, and other, what do you call it? Urban legends, that type of thing. We give private tours here in San Diego, and we do a lot of paranormal investigations at historical sites here in San Diego as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are surprised how much paranormal activity there actually is here in San Diego because compared to so much of the country, we're relatively a new city, right?
Definitely. But with it being the birthplace of California, there was a lot of history that kind of led to what I believe has the hauntings that are residing in our area.
Absolutely. You have the earlier settlers from what, like the 16th century, the missionaries, the Spanish colonization, right? And then we even have our famous Hotel del California, which was built in 1888. And I don't know if you know, Janine, but the actual original lights down there were put in by Thomas Edison himself.
Yes, I did. And they actually had the very first electrically lit Christmas tree right there on that site, still standing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, being here in San Diego, we love the Hotel Del because of the famous ghost that haunts the halls there. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Janine?
Sure. Yeah. A young lady came in. Her name was Kate Morgan, but she actually checked in under the name of Lottie. And I cannot remember the last name. Do you remember the last name that she checked in
I
under?
don't. I just remember Kate Morgan because actually she's also buried over in what's the cemetery?
Mount Hope,
Mount
Mount Hope
Hope. Thank
Cemetery
you. Yes,
here in San
yes.
Diego.
I have been to a gravesite and she is buried under Kate Morgan.
But she did check into the Hotel Del under a false name, Lottie
Mhm.
something or other. And it's just a very weird story. She kind of kept to herself while she was in the area. It was believed that she was waiting for her fiance to come for her. And the most interesting thing is when they did find her deceased, she was on the back stairs coming up
Mhm.
from the beach to the hotel. She was face down. Now, this death was ruled to be a suicide. They do believe that she had shot herself. But the interesting thing is the bullet they pulled from her head did not match the gun that was in her hand.
Yeah, and this has long been a mystery here in San Diego, and for sure a favorite. And just a sample of what we have here to check out. Of course, we also have our world-renowned Whaley House. People have probably heard a lot of the legends around that one. What are some of your favorite haunted locations here in town?
I would have to say, besides the Whaley House and the Hotel Del, I would say one of my number one favorites would be the Heath Davis Horton House in our Gaslamp quarter of downtown.
Hmm.
It's actually a little bit more active than the Whaley House is, which is interesting because the Whaley does get that title of being the most haunted in America, but they have hauntings on a weekly basis, where at the Heath Davis house, it seems to be daily.
But access is very limited, right?
Well, you can actually go in during the day between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., I believe, and you can take a tour of the entire house. It's only $8, actually, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
But for paranormal teams, yes, it's very locked down. They're very particular about who they let in there. I work for a company, SD Haunted, here in San Diego. We give ghost tours. We're the only ghost tour company that has keys to get inside that building.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure you have a lot of great stories that we can definitely get to in future episodes. But as this is our first episode, I thought it'd be great for our audience to get to know us a little bit. And Jenny, when would you say was the first time you actually had some sort of paranormal experience, saw spirits, something along those lines?
So I was actually 18 months old when I had my first paranormal experience.
Wow.
And what's interesting about it is being that young, I actually still have memories of being that young.
From 18
And I think
months.
18 months old, yeah.
Wow.
Going to Bob's Big Boy with my great grandmother and my grandma. And then when my great grandmother passed, I didn't know that she had passed, and she just continued to come and see me. So that was actually the
Mm.
first spirit that I encountered.
Yeah, I don't remember. I've been told about my first encounters. My stepmother would share how when I was really young, we would walk past a graveyard on the way to school. And I used to really creep her out because I would always point and say, "Hey, can I go play with those children over there?" Which is all the time. And there weren't any children. And so it really, really spooked her. I don't have memories of this, but, I have no reason to doubt her for something like that. But, yeah, I wish I had those early memories like you do. But a lot of times as we get older, we lose those, don't we?
A lot of people definitely start to lose them. I felt like mine were getting stronger as I was getting older. One of my most vivid memories was actually at the Whaley House. I was with my church group, so you can imagine how that went.
Yeah.
But I saw a boy and a dog run past me, and I stopped dead in my tracks, thinking, okay, we're going to collide. And then I almost knocked over my church leader. Needless to say, when I told her that I stopped for the boy and the dog, she scolded me for lying because nobody else could see the boy or the dog.
Yeah, and I'd say I really started becoming more in tune with my abilities when I was in my 20s, really. And a lot of that I think was just more awareness. Was talking with other like-minded people, starting to understand what these different uh, feelings and sort of inclinations were. But you're definitely someone that comes very natural to. I just tune in a little bit sometimes, but I know for you it just kind of comes as a flood.
Yeah, it just kind of flows on out. Like I kind of turned things off between, like middle school and high school because, kids can be cruel, and when you're different, right? But as you said, 20s, 20s, it came flooding back big
Yeah.
time. And I started to actually learn how to control what I was doing and actually control when spirits were allowed to communicate with me and when they were not.
Well, I think that's a really important fact you just or point you just made there is allowing when they can and can't. I had to learn that the hard way a couple times myself too. When I first started really understanding that I had these abilities. A strong point of mine is psychometry. For anyone who listening who doesn't know what that is, it's like you can hold an object that either has a lot of meaning to a person or something they carry around with them every day and has their energy on it, and you can do some really good readings, at least I can, from that. And so when I first sort of understood this ability, it was sort of like a new skill set. Like, hey, I go around like, let me hold all things for you. Let me tell you about things. But if you go into something like that without having your guard up, you're just opening the door for anything to come through, right? And for me, a lot of that was emotion. So I'm not talking about necessarily opening the door to a lot of spirit to come through, which can be the case. But for me, I would pick up on the feelings and emotions that people had at the time. Perhaps they were given the object I was reading or at a pivotal point in their life. And that could be very overwhelming. That can end in a lot of feelings of fear, terror, sadness, a lot of tears. So it's definitely important to learn how to, you can't always control it perhaps, but how to like turn it on and off or kind of put your shields up, so to speak.
Definitely. I feel like a lot of people who have the gifts that we do end up being empaths. So you're feeling other
Yeah.
people's emotions. And one of the most important things that you want to learn early on, especially if you're experiencing empath type capabilities, is to be able to recognize what is your emotions and what are emotions that are being given to you by either whatever's attached energy wise to the object or the spirits that are around you, so that you can separate them, because definitely can bring on strong bouts of anger, of becoming upset, crying.
Yeah, and one time I was at an event, actually a spirit event, and had a fellow sitting next to me who just gave off the most negative energy I've ever encountered. I mean, it was palatable. You could feel it. And driving, I remember driving home after that event, I experienced such severe paranoia like I've never encountered before. It was unreal. And when I got home, I had to take a minute to assess what was going on because that's not a feeling that's normal for me. But I really had to sit with it and, like you were saying, recognize what the source was. That wasn't coming from me. That was, I had let myself be too open and it sort of like clung to me, it felt like.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why it's super important to, vet and just be careful who you allow into your life and in your close proximity, because other people's energies can definitely transfer to us. And many people that have had, a really good day going, and then somebody else's negativity will just kind of creep in and kind of take over.
Yeah. And being an empath, it can really add, I can really pile on for sure.
My mom is an empath, and so unfortunately for her, she doesn't take on the emotions, whatever, but she feels when people are sick. So she's more like
Oh,
a
yeah.
healer type empath.
Mm-hmm.
And so she actually had an experience where she was talking to me and she was kind of grabbing her chest and telling me like, that she felt like someone was sitting on top of her and like her chest was hurting. And so I looked at the clock and we were going to, within a few minutes or so, decide whether we were going to take her to the emergency room or whatnot. And then we got a phone call. And the exact time that I had looked at the clock where she was expressing these symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
her dad had a heart attack.
Yeah.
So she was, even though he wasn't there, they had such a close bond that that empath kicked in and she actually could feel his pain.
Well, and these types of experiences certainly aren't limited to just you and I, right? Certainly a whole community out there that we're hoping with our podcast to connect with, and eventually have guests on to share their stories and their experiences. But we wanted to come on today, introduce ourselves, and hopefully get some people excited for things to come. I know on our next episode, we're actually going to talk about cryptids, right?
Yes, we are.
And one in particular, Bigfoot or Sasquatch, which honestly, Janine, for years, I can't say I really believed in it, but after doing some research and reading some firsthand documented accounts, I have to say my mind has been changed. Now, I don't know if they're still around. Maybe they're all died out, but my opinion has certainly changed.
I've always had like a healthy dose of skepticism when it came to Sasquatch or Bigfoot. But I do find it interesting that like all the stories tend to have, similar background and similar
Yeah, definitely.
experiences that the people experience, even when it's from other countries where they don't even speak the same language and they're using some of the same, descriptions. So I kind of do believe they could be out there.
That is definitely interesting how I think it's almost every continent on the planet has their own form of like a Bigfoot type thing. And like you said, there's a lot of commonalities that run through the descriptions that really make you stop and wonder. So yeah, always a little bit of skeptic, but I do like to keep an open mind. So I'll never say never, especially after the things that we've seen firsthand, right?
For sure. Yeah. You can never say never until it's proven a hoax. So
Well, Janine, maybe as we start wrapping up, just a little bit more background about you and I. How long have we known each other now? Like 10, 10, 15 years?
yeah, it's about 10 or 15 years. So for those of you that don't know, Michelle and I do paranormal investigations on a team together. We've had really some great experiences over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always had fun and worked well together. And we certainly have a lot of sort of do's and don'ts of paranormal investigation that we'll be happy to share in an upcoming episode as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Like sort of like Ghost Hunters 101, so that you know what works well and what you really definitely should not be doing.
Absolutely. All right, Jean. Well, Janine, as we start to wrap up, any final information you think we should share with our audience as we're launching our first episode?
So to go along with some of the episodes that we're going to have for you, there'll be follow-up videos on the SD Spooky Adventures YouTube channel. Keep your eye out there. When we do some of our paranormal investigations, you might actually get to come along with us for the
Mm-hmm.
ride. So that could be fun.
And we can also find you on Facebook too, right, Janine?
Yes, Facebook also under SD Spooky Adventures. We also have a TikTok as well.
So lots of places to find us, and who knows, maybe we will eventually get on LinkedIn, right? No, I'm kidding. All right, Janine. Well, I think we had some fun. It was a fun first episode to kick us off with, and I think we have some exciting information to bring everyone in the episodes to come.
Yes, definitely look forward to sharing a lot of our knowledge and experiences along the way.
All right. Thanks, Janine. It was great to talk with you today.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.